will say unequivocally, I support HBCU Week. I support HBCUs. I support scholarships to HBCU students.
Good evening. This is Dr. Curry.
This is Coby Owens.
And welcome to The Source. This week on The Source is really interesting because we have some commotion going on with a comment that Velda Jones-Potter allegedly made at the residency requirement meeting. We also always open up our show by first talking about the shootings that may have occurred in and around the city so that we can make sure we keep the public aware. And according to the information that I've received, there have been no reported shootings, which, I'm going to say congratulations to the city. Whatever they're doing is working, and I want to always give kudos to them when they're doing something right, but I haven't heard anything. Have you heard anything?
So I do know there was a shooting on 35th Street, West 35th Street, maybe 4 or 5 days ago.
Okay.
So around last Monday.
Okay.
But yeah, other than that, no one was hurt. But there was a shooting over that side of the town.
Okay. All right. Well, I didn't get a chance to see that one, but I will say this, though. They have been doing a lot of arresting. So I'm hoping that they're arresting the right people. And number two, I'm also hoping that if they are the people who have perpetrated any of these shootings, they are held accountable, because we have to feel safe in the communities upon which we live. And we, even though we have not gotten our report yet, I hope that they do have some kind of plan that they are starting. And I've noticed an uptick in presence. So I don't know what's going on, but I have noticed an uptick in police presence here in Southbridge and other places. I don't want to start giving off any of their details, but I have been seeing some uptick. So I hope that is working. But there was there were 2 triple shootings that are under investigation by Delaware authorities as it relates to Bear, Delaware, up in Bear.
Yeah, so, earlier this week, it was a fun day for children to go out, get to dress up in their costumes for Halloween. A lot of different places did different activities. And during Halloween, prime trick-or-treating time at 8 p.m., there was a shooting out in Bear, Salem Woods community. They had to all go on shelter in place.
Wow.
The cops were looking for a shooter. 3 people were injured. And there's really been no additional information given on those 3 people. But other than their ages, which was a 16-year-old, a 17-year-old, and a 20-year-old, who were all hit with bullets. And again, it's just so sad on a day that's supposed to be fun. You have a ton of kids out, and especially out in that neighborhood. That neighborhood is known for trick-or-treating, right? There's thousands and thousands of young children out there with their families as well, too. So this is a very scary thing to happen on a night like that.
Salem Woods, I believe, is in Newark, but it doesn't really matter because Bear and Newark is the same
Newark,
thing.
Bear, yeah.
But that is one of the older developments and one of the larger developments, so you're absolutely correct. There's a lot of trick-or-treating going on, a lot of things are going on during that time. And it's like now, is there any safe place anymore?
It's sad because it started to feel like there is no safe place at least for our kids to go and have fun while they're still in their youth. I know for us in the city of Wilmington, the PAL, we do a big haunted house, right? It's a safe environment. You still get candy. You get scared. I enjoy scaring the kids, but again, it's all about the fun and providing a safe environment for all the students who want to come to that, and it's open to the public. I know churches do
trunk or
treats and stuff like that, and I saw events happening all weekend long as well too. Again, just trying to create safe environments for the masses to be at as well too.
Yeah, I just feel bad sometimes when nothing seems safe. I go into the mall now, and I'm always looking to see what exit I can get out of. I'm very careful about how much I take my daughter with me, and also about us being separated. She's becoming a teenager now, and she wants her own independence, and I'm just nervous, a nervous wreck. And I don't know, we shouldn't be nervous, but this world is just crazy. Seeing what just happened, where I don't know your opinion on the young man who was threatening to kill all those Jews from Cornell. They just arrested him, and I guess he thought he can get away with it. But it's just, there's so much out there lurking to try to harm people, humanity.
Well, so right now, again, and I know we talked about it last show about what's going on over in Israel and in Gaza. This isn't, hatred drives hatred.
Yeah.
And when you have narratives that are being put out, people feel emboldened to take action on them. And again, that student who was arrested had threatened to kill other students at Cornell.
Right. Jewish students, I believe.
Jewish students, yes, absolutely. And you know, it has a very large population of Jewish people at Cornell. But I am glad that they were able to stop him prior to that, because that would have been devastating, not just to the school community and to that city up there. I believe it's Ithaca, but it would have been devastating to America as well too. We are going through a time where we're seeing so much death, and again, you know, whether you're Jewish or Israeli, or you're Muslim and Palestinian, there is no justification for any loss of life. I don't care what you say. You can't say you believe that you have the right to defend yourself while also seeing young kids perishing.
Yeah.
So again, I think now it's a critical time for us as America to learn from our past, right? Especially after 9/11, especially after Pearl Harbor. When you react fast and you react on that racist fears, it causes even more harm, whether you intended to or not. But up in Syracuse, in the courtroom up there, he's scheduled to appear before a judge, and he's probably going to plead not guilty.
Most likely.
But there is heavy evidence proving that he was plotting to carry out a heinous act.
Yeah. Do you think that there are people in the wing waiting to carry out heinous acts? Because it seems like it doesn't matter what happens. Even when we had COVID, you had people attacking the Chinese community. Do you think there's just a fashion of people who just looking for a reason to carry out?
Absolutely. There's some people who are looking for the simple justification of carrying out their wildest dreams. And then you have individuals who look for the fame. Because of things that they have going on in their life, they think the only way to be remembered is by creating these heinous acts. And then you have some people whose hearts are just filled with hatred. And, you know, then they get inspired when you hear certain rhetorics put out against different people. And again, this reminds me, just a few, months ago, we saw the Buffalo shooting.
Right.
Where a white supremacist targeted a predominantly black supermarket, had the N-word written on the barrel of his gun. He went there to kill black people.
Because he had one white, he just overlooked.
He said, "Oh, I'm not here for you."
Right. Yeah.
This young man at Cornell, he went to the dining hall that is a kosher dining hall,
right?
Where a lot of Jewish students eat. He went there he wanted to go there to cause harm to that community, and that's really sad.
Yeah, it's beyond sad, and I just often wonder why. And I think that's why Donald Trump had such a takeoff, because he really was a voice to the silence that people had as it relates to their hatred towards humanity. When I looked at the picture of the young man with the Cornell case, he didn't look to be Pakistan. I didn't know Palestinian. I didn't.
So one again, terrorism really has no face.
Okay, that's important.
And hatred has no face. The Palestinian people are not Hamas. Hamas is a small fraction of deranged individuals who are set on killing, just like any other terrorist organization. This young man is not from that area, but he let his hatred towards Jewish people fuel him. And that's what we were just talking about, when we have some people who are just waiting for the prime opportunity.
That was my point of bringing.
Okay, now we see something going on across the ocean. Now, what can I do here?
Yeah.
And that's the scary part of it, because you have so many people just like him. And it's a domino effect, unfortunately. Yeah.
I just hope, for those of you who are watching us today, I just hope that you would please take some time to search your own hearts to ensure that we begin to change the trajectory of the hatred that we have and the biases that we have towards humanity at large. I sometimes I wonder, how is it that a person can hate? When I looked at what happened in Israel, when they were just attacked and beheaded and things of that nature, but I understand the call for to stop the ceasefire, because you got innocent babies who had nothing to do with any of it that's being killed now. I hear the arguments on Israel's side. I hear the arguments on Hamas's side, I guess you would call it, and I just feel I'm in the middle, but I'm tired of evil doing what evil wants to do and expecting to get grace. However, look at the people who are not getting the grace, and it's the people who had nothing at all to do with it. And yes, they're evil in that they put a lot of their underground tunnels where a lot of civilians are, but it's just really sad. So I know we spent a lot of time on that. That wasn't really a part of our agenda, but I'm glad you did continue.
So I want to bring up one thing. Because, I watched an interview the other day with Marcus Lamont Hill, and he was talking to an Israeli official, and kind of what you just said as well, too. Attacking someone because someone else is taking action, and you're going to keep attacking them until that other person stops taking action, is called collective punishment. And according to the Geneva Convention, that is a war crime. You cannot use collective punishment to punish the people who are in refugee camps because of Hamas. No one is saying don't take Hamas on and don't take them out, but do not target the innocent civilians. And saying that civilian life is just collateral damage, that's not good enough for me, at least. And you look at what is happening over there. There is a media blackout over there, a social media blackout, pretty much. Internet has been shut off for people in Gaza. When statements are being put out, not in native language, but in English language, it's not for the people in Gaza. It's for us to try to make us sleep better at night. You look at the refugee camp that was just hit, the second one, 2 in 1 week, and say, well, we had intel that there was terrorists there. Yes, but how many civilians were there?
Yeah, and I think you should continue to say civilians, because one interview I saw that I kind of agreed with is that they were not refugees that had just gotten there last year.
Right.
They were refugees who had been living for years, but they were poor and they didn't really have any place to go because they kept saying. So I'm trying to be neutral, but you're right. Look, at the end of the day, let's just call it what it is. It's too many civilians being hurt.
It's over 14,000 people sheltering there.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, America, we have one of the best militaries in the world.
Mm-hmm.
We shouldn't, we have strike teams to go in and surgically take out targets. Yeah. And I'm not saying I support.
We've proved
again,
that.
I've said multiple times, I do not support war.
Okay.
But just mass bombing is not the answer. It's getting closer and closer to hospitals, to places of worship. Gaza is being leveled with the people under the rubble. Mm. And you can't sit by. It's a simple question. Are you on the side of humanity and morality? Or are you on the side of injustice?
But a person will say they can answer that both ways and still be right in their own eyesight. They can say they're on the side of humanity. That's why when our people were killed and slaughtered the way they were, we're going to get them back. And then the other side we can say, well, what about the justice, the justice part of it? And that is to get justice on them or to get justice back because we're now being attacked. It's a shame because you made a comment and that is so true. And that is that Hamas is a very small percentage of people as opposed to all the people who are being harmed now. That's why I say I'm in the middle of my feelings, but I do also understand scripture. It tells us that revenge belongs to God. So you're walking a tightrope here. Mm-hmm. Humanity, being full of humility for humanity is very much important. That's what the call has to start being too. I don't think Israel is going to listen this time. I think Israel is very angry. I think they are at a place where we're going to, if we have to level and put everybody under the rebel, as using your own language, we're going to do it because at this point they are feeling that they've crossed the line. And
I just want to say, and I know sometimes people may take support for Palestine as being anti-Jewish. Mm-hmm. I stand with my Jewish neighbors. Mm-hmm. I stand with the thousands and thousands of Jewish people across this country who has taken action to call for a ceasefire. Mm-hmm. I stand with every one of my Palestinian brothers and sisters who are mourning for the loss of loved ones over there currently right now. You have to. And again, when I ran for office, my campaign was ran by a African-American Palestinian, right? Mm-hmm. He was mixed. And I got to learn more. I knew some about what was going on over there, mm-hmm. but I got to learn more because he has family over there. Mm-hmm. This conflict is very complicated, mm-hmm. and is not going to be solved overnight. Mm-hmm. But again, more death is not the answer to stop death.
I understand. That's true.
So again, we have a long way to go. And I hope that a ceasefire is declared soon and that a real strategy is brought up, because just blanket bombing is not the answer.
Yeah, I agree with that. And we're going to, this is going to be a hot topic on all talk shows if there's a worthwhile conversation happening, because we are sitting back, and America has always been very, very friendly to Israel. And we are. I say my brothers and sisters in Israel as well as in Pakistan, because I think both of them serve in the capacity of being a part of the human race. Mm-hmm. However, sometimes the political arenas is what causes all of this damage and all of this hurt and all of this pain. And just like back in the Bible days, it was always the wars is a result of power. Mm-hmm. And at some point, should the people be hurt to the level they're being hurt, so a few can get power, and that has to stop. Before we go to a commercial break, I want to really spend a couple minutes because something happening back in Wilmington for those of y'all who are listening to us, and that's more world news. But right now, going back to Wilmington, something happened. I had gotten some phone calls as well as received some comments, and I was not at the city council meeting when there was a public forum regarding the residency requirement. And someone had shared that they were a little concerned with Velda Potter, Mrs. Potter rather, making a comment that the HBCU week was only a photo op. That bothered me. So I then went looking for Ms. Potter to have an interview with her, for her to explain to me, for my audience, what was she saying and what did she mean? Because what I don't want to happen is, I don't want to use that as a leverage to say, oh, I'm not going to support her or I will support her. You understand what I'm saying? So I called her together and I caught up with her and I did a quick interview. I want you to look at this, and then when we come back, I want to be able to discuss a few things that she talked about real quickly. Just look at this. This is Dr. Curry, and I normally allow our brother Coby or sister Shanae to do all of our special reports. But I heard some things in the grumbling this week, and I wanted to make sure I always give people a chance to respond to some of the things that I'm hearing. And some comments regarding the residency with HBCUs, people had given their opinion of it. I wasn't certain because I wasn't there. I did go back and listen to the tape. The question that I wanted you to try to respond to in your own fashion, what did you mean when you were talking about the residency and you kind of used the HBCUs as a backdrop to that?
Yes. Thank you so much for the opportunity to really just for me to be clear so people can really understand the context and certainly the facts of my comment and what I said at the city council meeting in really addressing the issue of residency and frankly what the current mayor is stating as the reason for needing to hire people from outside the city and therefore to remove the residency law. So at the heart of it is his stated inability to fill jobs. And let me say on its face, that to me is unfounded.
Okay.
We have plenty of qualified, capable, and ready people right here in this city to fill the jobs that are open in the city. It's also possible to hire people from outside the city. You don't have to live in the city to be hired. You just have to move in the city once you are hired. And you have 6 months to do that.
Okay.
And then you're expected to live in the city for 5 years. The hope being that you will become, very comfortable, very happy living here. And even when you continue your employment beyond the 5 years, that you'll stay here in this city, in this beautiful community that you helped build.
Right.
So as I was making my comments, they were centered around and really directed to the mayor and his administration, who has the responsibility to fill positions.
Okay.
I will say unequivocally, I support HBCU week. I support HBCUs. I support scholarships to HBCU students. And I do now, and I will continue as mayor to do that. We have in our HBCU students some of the most capable, most highly qualified. And so when someone presents me with a problem, I like to bring to you a solution.
Absolutely.
And so in my comments, I mentioned a couple. First of all, make people aware that the jobs need to be filled, that they exist. That hadn't been done.
It has.
Hasn't been done very well. Only 15 are posted on the website.
Well, he said it was 100 or some jobs, wasn't it?
That's what he said. And it was not until the day of the meeting that the council people even got a list of those jobs.
Oh, wow.
So, and they, to my knowledge, have not been broadly distributed or displayed anywhere. So it just begged the question, what real effort has there been to fill the jobs.
Okay.
And so my first solution was at least let people know that they're there. Post all of them. Get the list out to all the council people. They have a whole network of civic associations, community groups. Our churches are a great place to let people know that there are positions out there that are available. Let's do apprenticeship programs. Many of these positions don't have high-level skill requirements. They're crossing guard positions that a lot of college students would welcome the chance to Del Tech, Wilmington University, part-time position. They can work in the morning for a couple of hours as they're helping the children cross. Then they can come back in the afternoon, and all during the day, they can work their class schedule around that. So a young person who's trying to fund their own college education, that's a great way to do it. Some of the positions are analyst positions that are great positions for college graduates. And so the challenge that I made and the question that I put on the table regarding HBCUs is, the city has made a tremendous investment in the HBCU week, and it's been phenomenal. My understanding is 6,000 young people have received scholarships, and that's great. So, and it gets a lot of, a lot of publicity. There's a lot of celebrity around it, and all that is wonderful. But what I want to see is that we also take advantage of the recruitment opportunity from that.
I understand.
That these young people, they want to work. They want to be a part of a community. They want to own a home. That's why they're going to college. And so distinguishing from the program itself, which is outstanding, as an avenue for motivating and inspiring young people and helping them through scholarships. The second piece of that, which is directed directly to the mayor as the individual who's responsible for hiring and who has brought this issue of an inability to fill positions, I say, hire those young students. They are among our most talented and gifted.
Now, are those students, I didn't mean to cut you off, but are those students Wilmington students?
Many of them should be, because a lot of the tax dollars are being spent from Wilmington. Now, I do understand, I believe that the program is in some other cities now, but we can hire some of those students from those other cities. Let's get them to come here too.
Now, you said over 6,000 people received scholarships from the city of Wilmington or across the country?
That I'm not sure. It's through the program.
Oh, through that program.
So I don't know how it parses.
Because when I hear the announcement of 6,000 students, I'm thinking that the city of Wilmington gave out 6,000 scholarships. And if they did, then I'm trying to make sure, as a HBCU graduate, that if we have all of this money we're investing for them to go to college and do well, what you're saying is, well, then let's close that circle. Let's bring them back home and provide them with jobs.
Yes.
Interesting.
That's exactly what I'm saying. And I'm saying let's even be even more creative than that, because we may be competing with other cities for these talented young people. So let's take housing is an issue that the mayor has also said is a barrier. And so let's take the land bank, where we have lots of vacant homes that are just ready for someone to rehabilitate and live in. And let's do what used to be a homesteading initiative, where let's give these young people an incentive to come back, and enhanced benefit incentives that includes a home from the land bank, and with their job letter can go to the bank and get a loan. They can rehabilitate that home, and in 60 days they can be living in a home that they're owning.
Wow, that's called creativity and ingenuity.
Yes.
Wow. Well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, so I just want to, really, I appreciate the opportunity to be clear that, to the contrary, this is, my intent was not a negative at all on HBCU Week. It's an outstanding program. To the contrary, let's leverage that with these young people and bringing them home so they can now contribute to the community, live close to family and friends, and help build this city.
Wow, that's interesting. And as when I heard some of the grumbling, I said I have to try to get in touch with Ms. Potter to ask her some questions, because one of the things I don't take lightly if someone is criticizing anything with HBCU, but I hear you.
Yes.
It's totally different than what I'd heard. I mean, you're saying, hey, HBCU week is great, and you're clear on that. You have no issue with that. You have no issue with this. But every student who can get money to go to HBCU, you're clear on all those wonderful things. But what you're saying is close the gap. Let's just not just have a photo op. Let's take an opportunity to be able to bring those same gifted and talented students back.
Yes.
And give them jobs that we trying to fill here in the city.
Yes.
I think that's excellent. So I'm glad that you took some time to really be with. I know you're busy back and forth with all these different events that you're hosting and you're having, and you're really putting in a lot of work, boy, I tell you.
Yeah. But it's important.
I see. But I'm glad you just took this moment to just give me a second. And normally I have to wait for Coby or for Sinead to do these interviews, but I know that your time is very valuable. And I really want to take this opportunity to thank you for clarifying that so that my viewers will be able to clearly understand it had nothing to do with HBCUs directly. It was saying, okay, close the gap. Don't just have a photo opportunity or to be able to praise something that you have not brought it in full circle.
Yes.
I appreciate that so very much.
And I thank you for the opportunity. It's important to me that the public understands what my intent and my heart is with regard to that. Thank you.
You're always welcome, and you're very much welcome. We'll be right back. Well, Coby, that was her response. And I want to make sure whenever we are being a part of this, the source, that we get a chance to ask the real questions. And I invited the mayor and others to respond to some of the things we heard. She took me up on that and she wanted to talk about it. But what did you hear that you may want to clarify or because you were there?
Yeah, I was there. I mean, there was dozens of people there, right? I believe like 75 people were there at one point in time. There was a ton of people online. We can't see those numbers. It was a very intense meeting, right? You had people chirping at each other in the crowd. You had council members turning around yelling at residents who actually live in the city of Wilmington while they're trying to take away jobs for opportunities from those people. And that person is supposed to represent us as not only a council at large person, but the council pro temp. So I think in a very tense moment, things were said, and not the best context, right? So when it was said about the photo op and everything, one, I just want to say, I support HBCU Week. And I've seen the impact it's had over these last few years and as it's been growing and it's going to continue to grow. I think the back end of it was once these kids graduate, and you have to give them time, right? 4-year process, 5 years for some, have jobs here in the city of Wilmington waiting for them, right? So that the city that helped raise them, right, that invested in them, is now offering them opportunity to come back and thrive here. And I think that's what the point, because there was a few comments about HBCU Week that night. I think that's what a lot of people were trying to get at. It just was not worded correctly, and it's not how I would have worded it myself. I kept my comments on the actual notion of why the residency requirement was so important. But then also you have to look at the other side of it as well. In that interview, she talked about the 15 jobs that are listed, right? And that there was a list given out of the 100 jobs that are open. What is the real breakdown of that is there's not 100 jobs that are currently available to be applied to right now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right? You take out all the police and fire jobs, right? Because city council has not approved classes to go ahead and start the application process for that. So that takes all those jobs out. Right? That's dozens of jobs right there. You have some jobs that are posted. You have other jobs that are waiting to be posted, right? Which means they're still going through the process, seeing if there needs to be any change with the job description or what the role may be, or if they even want to fill that role again, which we've seen each budget season, multiple roles get cut and cut and cut, right? You look at our constituent service office, right? You had a huge constituent service office that then was cut down to 6, that then was cut down to 3. Now it's 2 people, right? So when you do things like that and you keep these positions open and you justify it for eliminating those positions so you can reallocate that money towards something else, and, that money goes to the general pot that then becomes tax incentives or, credits for development, which is great. But if you have all this extra money for development, well, then you have an issue when it comes to recruitment. Why? Well, let's use the words of our own local FOP. The rent is too expensive in the city of Wilmington. The housing market isn't good.
Yeah.
I think I agree with them. But I wonder who said something prior to that if you didn't build in affordable housing, you're going to price yourself out of your own workforce. Oh, wait, multiple people have said that before. But we were told we didn't know anything by these same council people, by this mayor. So now it's an issue. Now you want to change residency instead of admitting you were wrong and that you have now harmed our workforce in the city of Wilmington, that we have millions and millions of open office space in the city of Wilmington because businesses don't want to come here. So yes, why development is good, most of these buildings are sitting half empty.
Wow.
But yet they're getting millions and millions of billions of dollars of taxpayer dollars.
So basically, with the whole notion of the HBCU, you're of the same opinion she is now. Even though she may have said directly a photo op,
right?
What she really meant was don't use it only as a photo op. You need to be able to use it as an opportunity to have jobs available to them and things of that nature. I agree. Now, I know on your segment you want to talk a little bit more about residency, so I want to give you the opportunity to really expand upon that. But I just wanted to make sure that in our first session that we had an opportunity to hear her response. And for those of you who may have heard it and you hear some rumors, I want you to hear what she meant, what she said, because that's why I ask people to come on the show. I ask them to come on the show so they can explain their position. I'm friendly with everybody. Even if I don't think that you are 100% or real, I'm still going to be friendly because I've learned to be a professional. But in the meantime, I just wanted to make sure but we're going to give you an opportunity when we come back to go through your different areas that you want to talk about. But I think the first half has been good. So we want to take this opportunity to thank everybody. We'll be right back. And we're back. Well, Coby, my favorite time of the show, even when you're not here, I'll be wondering where you're at. But and I also wanted to say that our other co-host is not here. That she's serving she's in her reserve
military
duties
training
and doing some military training. I want to make sure that we acknowledge that's why she's not here today. Tell me what's going on with the Coby Corner today.
Yeah. So first, talking more on residency.
Okay.
There's been 2 bills introduced. One by Councilwoman Tish Bracey. That will change our residency kind of radius to include you have to move into Newcastle County or live in Newcastle County for 5 years. The second is one that is a 5-year, 6-month with what it currently is 6 months to move in. And that was introduced by Councilwoman Darby. Both of those bills will be introduced and heard. And I honestly don't know which one is going to pass, but probably when the committee meeting tomorrow, Monday, take place, whichever one will pass and one will fail. They won't advance both of them.
So it's going to be, just for those of you who are paying attention, I want to make sure I understood, so I'm going to ask you this question. So first it has to get out of committee.
Yes.
And based on the vote of the committee, one of those 2 will go to the floor.
Yes.
Okay. So who serves on that committee? Or now you ain't got to give me the names if you don't know the names, but tell me pretty much of the makeup of that committee.
Yeah. So it's going to be a special joint committee meeting between the Intergovernmental Committee, which is chaired by Michelle Harley, with Letitia Bracey on it, Yolanda McCoy, and Xanthia Oliver on that committee. And then the Finance and Economic Committee is also going to be paired with them, which is chaired by Chris Johnson. Vice chair is Michelle Harley. Tish Bracey's on that committee. Xanthia Oliver's on that committee. Nathan Fields, James Fadola's on that committee. And then Trippy serves as an ex officio member on both those committees, so he'll also be there.
And there's some lay people on the committee too? Some lay people who are not from the city council?
No.
So we already know which one is going to go through. We already know that.
Again, that's why it's so important to make sure you show up to the council chambers Monday, November the 6th, tomorrow at 5 p.m. Show up, or you can also get online. You go to the Wilmington City Council website and look at the agenda. They'll have the link, the Zoom link for you.
Please make sure we put that on the screen, please. All right.
So again, it's super important that you show up and make your voice heard for that. I know there's been a bunch of town halls over these last few days of engaging the community. So hopefully it's a good turnout to make your voice heard on where we want to be, making sure we keep the boundaries within the city limits, and also moving forward that we are really doing our best to make sure we're filling these positions. And here's the thing, the mayor hasn't done his job to make sure these positions, if he put as much energy into development as he did these jobs, we wouldn't have this issue right now. But that's all I had on residency. I did want to talk about an event that I attended earlier this week on Wednesday that was hosted by State Senator Darius Brown, called Opportunity Lives Here. And it was a symposium about some of the partnerships that are coming up, especially with like the Riverfront Development Corporation, the Delaware River Bay Authority, and kind of what is going on in between the Brandywine, Christina, and Delaware rivers, and how is it going to help us become a driver culturally, socially, and economically. It was a great discussion. You had panels that included people like Eugene Young from the State Housing Authority, Saran Cade from OMB, Colin O'Mare from the Natural Wildlife Federation, who is also the chair of a group that is getting the new hydrogen hub that I talked about a few weeks ago here in this area, in the tri-state area, called Mach 2. And Mach 2 is the Mid-Atlantic Community, I forget the full name, Community Hydrogen Hub. So again, this is going to bring billions of dollars to this area. Almost $7 billion is going to be invested in this area. It looks to bring thousands and thousands of good paying jobs, well-paying jobs that include union jobs, and also address climate, the climate issue that we are dealing with right now, and looking to decarbonize our ecosystem right now. So again, this area that's represented is representing almost 4 million residents in the tri-state area. And this is going to create better environments for us to live in, especially if you look at places like the Route 9 corridor that has been continuously forgotten about when it comes to the environmental impact that these corporations are having in that area, creating those cancer clusters, creating a lot of people in that area grow up with asthma and stuff like that. So again, this is going to be huge for the area. It's going to bring thousands of jobs and hundreds of opportunities for individuals across the board as they move forward with this. But this is only made possible thanks to the President Biden's bipartisan infrastructure bill that he signed in 2022. And again, as this goes forward, this is going to be, it's going to offer jobs that they're partnering with HBCUs, they're training other providers, they're developing people, they're partnering with community colleges in all 3 states. They're looking for individuals who have 2- and 4-year degrees. They have pre-apprenticeship programs and apprenticeship programs. Wow. They are looking to encourage a diverse workforce to make as many careers as possible from this project, from development of this project, and then going forward as well too. So I think it's going to be a critical opportunity for the state of Delaware to make sure we're prepared with our workforce here. And again, this goes back to residency. It's wherever you are working at, that's where you should be focused at, is developing your workforce.
And I got to give a little hats off and kudos to Darius, because Senator Brown does a very good job constantly with putting on these type of events to try to, broaden our understanding and give more strength to the workforce or whatever areas that are really kind of depleted.
Mm-hmm. So next I want to talk about Delaware housing.
Okay.
Whew. I've been talking about this for a long time. It's something that is near and dear to my house, or to my heart. We know housing, we're in a shortfall with over 21,000 units short of affordable housing that's needed here. But the 2023 housing assessment report has just come out. And it shows that for 50% of Delaware renters, they are cost burdened.
50%?
50%. Wow. And then 25,000 of those people are severely cost burdened, which means they're spending up to 80% of their monthly income on rent alone, right? It's not sustainable. And again, cost burden means you're paying more than 50% of their income. Home ownership has dropped across all ages except for seniors, with the biggest decline being in the age range of 35 to 44. This destabilizes any steps we took forward for generational wealth when it comes to buying and owning your own house. And that dropped from 71% down to 63%. That is a huge, huge drop. And then again, the state composition of housing stock has changed very little, which means there needs to be more investment in developing new stock, right? Developing new houses. We've actually seen a very small decrease of 6,800 units when it comes to like manufactured homes and mobile homes decrease as well too, which again, that creates a lot of issue as well too. But in order to keep up with the household growth through 2023, the state is going to have to start building and helping push for about 2,400 units to be built a year, and that's needed across the state of Delaware. So in order to make that happen, we have to secure more funding, right? We have some funding, and State Secretary of Housing, Eugene Young, fought very hard to get that into the budget, but he's going to need more money in that department in order to get it done. And that investment is going to be needed, right? So we're going to get to a place where if that investment isn't made, we're going to be in a shortfall that we're not going to be able to dig our way out of. It needs to be the constraints on regulatory policies need to be relaxed so that we could develop more diverse housing types, right? And this goes all the way back to when I was in high school and I was advocating for micro housing, which is now something that is very big in states like Texas and California and Washington, right? Out west, they're using micro housing to help with transitional housing. Delaware does not really have that. Churches have the opportunity to use their own land, but again, it's touch and go with the building codes and stuff like that. So again, Delaware is a perfect place to live. We just need to make sure we have the proper housing in order for people to come and live here, and people who are currently here have the proper housing stock so that they can continue to thrive, and we just don't have that right now.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I understood. I remember when we first started this show, you talked about the housing shortage, and one of the things I had shared that we were going to do over here is we were going to build some affordable housing for seniors, because that was my area of concentration. And I see a couple people who have signs up saying that they are building affordable housing. But in this Southbridge section alone, there is very little affordable housing. We forget that the riverfront is part of Southbridge, and that it's very expensive to live at the waterfront. Yes. It's very expensive, and I sit back and I watch, the 2 or 3 who consider themselves to be the leadership of Southbridge, how they fight certain people, especially me, who want to see support given to this section, who constantly just fight, and they fight without looking at the bigger picture. They fight a person's agenda who's not really helping. And another thing, and we're going to talk about this whole thing with the second ethics complaint too. But why is it that now I'm talking about African Americans and Latinos who can get access to stuff, tend to put a lot in their pockets instead of caring for the community that they are representing? That's something. I hear you with this affordable housing, and that we have access to be able to make this happen. We're not making it happen, but we're doing a lot of stuff, making sure that we are enriched ourselves.
There are certain people who get in positions of power and like the power, and they forget about their roots. They forget about the people who actually put them in power, and we saw that on the last council a lot. So again, because they're in the room, and because a narrative can be spun that makes them, ooh, that sounds good. Well, since the other people weren't in the room, they won't understand why we need to do this, and they just go along with the plan.
Wow.
It's sad,
so real.
But we see this all across the country.
Yeah.
We see this all across the country, and again, it's the same people who want to preach about Black unity who's doing this to us, right? Who want to preach about how it's so important to embrace your Blackness, embrace Mother Africa. They are the ones who will turn on you the quickest.
Yeah, and I'm noticing that because I see people can put poison in your bloodline by giving you drugs and alcohol, and they talk about how much they do in the community, don't do anything, and then they attack a person who can show how much they're doing in the community. I've decided, I'm going to say to those of you who watch us, and I have a lot of faithful watchers who watch this show, and yes, I'm becoming a little uncomfortable, but I've been advised to chill out for a little bit, and I'm going to chill. But I do want you all to know that when I speak of Easy and Fair, giving back to this community, I'm speaking of Southbridge and at large. We have a long track record of food programs, of medical services, all of that happening on our campus right now. For people to say, especially a person who's selling alcohol and that's all they do for this community, that we don't do nothing, you really need to come over. You really need to see what we do. And we don't charge a dime. That's community service, not sitting in a meeting. And I have my people at those meetings. They have civic association meetings every once a month. And I have my people there to hear some of I just don't understand how people, they sound good and people follow along just to enrich themselves. But I'm going to have a special whole report on what Easy and Fair does, the services that we provide to the community, just so you all can see. It's not about bragging. It's really about making sure that people but people receive services, because that's what it's about. Not selling stuff, not making sure I profit off of your pain and your position, but it's really about giving back to a community and the services that we provide. I'm sorry, Coby, I'll take this moment of your time, but the services that we provide is not just to Southbridge. Southbridge is a beautiful place. It has the best people, and matter of fact, just for those who watch, about 10% of my congregation is members of Southbridge. And if I wanted to start something really big here and create a problem for that little association and those who want to play games with me, I could start moving in that direction. But I choose not to take the bigger ground with it. But I just, this whole housing thing is stressing me out, where people are talking about we need more housing, and we really do. But yet and still, they're not moving forward to make it happen. And some of the people who are talking got money to do it, and they haven't done nothing yet. You had one more, and I'm going to give you some time to go ahead and do your last one.
So I just, the last point is an update on 2024.
Yeah.
We have a new candidate in the congressional race on the Republican side. She ran in 2020 for lieutenant governor. and I believe it was 2018, she ran for state senate down in the Dover-Kent area for the 17th district. Danielle Hall, who is running for U.S. Congress on the Republican side. In 2020, she received the most votes of any of the statewide Republican candidates outside of Donald Trump. So again, that race is she's the sole person on the Republican side, and again on the Democratic side is State Housing Secretary Eugene Young, State Senator Sarah McBride, and State Treasurer Colleen Davis.
And I saw some data, and I could be wrong. And you're the nerd of all this politics stuff. And I saw where McBride is kind of like in double digits right now, and everybody else is in single digits.
So a congressional poll did come out, and it was done by the HRC, which is the organization that Sarah McBride used to serve as their national press secretary to. And again, I'm not big on all polls, but this poll, Sarah does have a double-digit lead over Eugene. She sits at about 44%. Eugene's at 23%, and Colleen Davis is at 13%, with a vast number, 20% of the electorate being undecided.
Okay.
Again, these polls all change, and it's based on who you are targeting in these polls. So I will say the reason why I said I don't believe all polls is if they don't post the actual data points of who they engaged, what was their leaning. It's a Democratic primary, so they probably only targeted Democratic people or Democratic registered Democrats. Again, I have not seen that data yet, so I don't really want to take a too in-depth analysis of that until I see that data. That's the only reason why I said that.
Yeah, because there was some I guess some people were trying to push the current governor to run against Lisa. Or was it against was it for his old seat? I thought it was. I didn't know which
for
one
his old seat.
For his old seat, it wasn't for Senate. It was for Congress.
I definitely don't think he would run against LBR. But I also know it's very well known that he did not.
But they said that.
Enjoy having to run every 2 years and being down in Washington D.C. I will say this: I think he truly loves Delaware.
Okay.
And I think he loves being up here in Delaware.
Okay. All right. Well, Coby, we've had a really good show today. We had an opportunity to talk about a lot of things that wasn't on our agenda, but it was in our heart, and we wanted to share. So we're very grateful for that. And I want to inform the community that we will be doing a special report at some point to talk about the services and things that happens in various communities, because every week we come back with something good happening in our city. This is a great place to live. Wilmington is a great place to live. It's a great place to raise your children. Yes, we find ourselves in some problems. There's some crime that needs to be addressed within several communities. But at the end of the day, it's a good place to be. And I hope that we will find that there. Don't forget, tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, you need to show up.
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock. Oh, I made a mistake earlier. So please, I hope you didn't tune out. It's at 5 o'clock on tomorrow. Please make sure you show up, voice your opinion. That what I've learned, and I saw that with you all when they were going to take the vote earlier. When people show up and start speaking up, people change their mind. It's when you're absent that people decide, I'm gonna do what I want to do because nobody really is interested. So I really hope enough of you are interested. And I just think that really we need to keep this residency requirement in so that we can have these jobs for those who live in the city, who invested in the city. If this city is not good enough to live in, then it shouldn't be good enough to receive its money.
Right.
That's what I believe. So let's see how that goes. Next week, I'm sure you all will come back and report. And I know Sister, our co-host, Sister Darby, she will be certainly giving, because she's been on fire as it relates to this one. Well, Coby, is there anything else you want to share for today?
Next Thursday, Mark Moriel, the national president of the Urban League, will be in Delaware for a fundraiser in the morning. And then at 1 p.m., if y'all are interested, he is doing a fireside chat at the Wilmington Library downtown. So feel free to stop by. It's completely free to the public. I think they're selling books for like $20. But again, Mark Moriel, who's been the national president for the last 22 years of the National Urban League, and prior to that, he was mayor of the city of New Orleans.
Yeah. Okay.
So feel free to stop by, and he's going to talk about his fight in the civil rights movement.
Great. Well, and that's a good. I think I may have to stop in for that one. All right. Well, we didn't get a chance to talk about the 2 complaints. We'll hold that for next week, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
There are 2 complaints that have been filed with the Ethics Committee, and we will be discussing that just to see what's happening. We don't have an opinion on it at this point because anyone can claim a complaint. We just want to see what are the facts of that before we really get into details. Well, this is Dr. Curry.
This is Coby Owens.
And thank you for watching The Source.
Take care, y'all.